These stairs are the first thing you see every time you go into the bus. And not gonna lie, it's pretty freaking grim. Don't get me wrong, they're functional. Early on, we sealed them, we taped them. They've been just fine. They operate as stairs, which is what they are. But it's unfortunate to have a beautiful home and this be the first thing that people see. So we're going to try and fix that. And in true Brandy fashion, we're not doing any basic stairs. No, honey. We're going to try to do a beautiful mosaic tile project. Have I done a mosaic tile before? No, of course not. But we're going to give it a go. Now, in all seriousness, I should probably start this project by laying the subfloor and putting in the sound deadener and all of that stuff. I probably should. But to be honest, I've had a hard time making myself do much of anything this week. I'm not sure if you know this, but the world is like on actual fire. I have been having a hard time processing all that is happening in the world. I've been having a hard time imagining the start of World War III and imagining a group of grown men being okay with bombing a school full of children. And yeah, I think if you have a conscience and a heart, you're probably having a hard time too this week. And it feels sort of silly to make little DIY videos and film bus projects and edit them and put them out on the internet for people's entertainment when so many are suffering, you know. I think a lot of people in the US are suffering. We are self-employed, uninsured individuals who are preparing our taxes right now, and disgusts me to think about how those taxes are going to be used. Because if I had my way, they would go to fund things like healthcare and education and community support and building libraries and making sure that the most vulnerable are protected and cared for, and that our infrastructure was good and that roads were built. And sadly, that's not where most of my tax dollars are going to go. Yours either. And that is hard for me to reconcile. I've also just been scared. I think things are going to get worse before they get better. And that worries me. So to come up with a design, I took the measurements of the stair rises And I put those measurements into Canva, and then I came up with a design that's going to go down the 3 steps. And this is going to be the top step. So I printed it out at Staples on just their engineering prints. And then I will take this, and this is the mesh that's going to be on the stairs, what the actual tiles are going to stick to. So I will take this and put plastic wrap over top of it so I can still see the design, and then layer the mesh on top of it so that way I can go ahead and glue the mosaic tiles to it. So this is going to be like our main base color, which is where the white is. And then we're going to have the road and the letters, which will be these black mosaic tiles. And then the lines of the road, which will be these white mosaic tiles. So let's see how this goes. So because I am unable to make my brain do the structural, gross, unvisually appealing part of this process, I'm going to let myself do what I can, which is art, because art helps me focus my brain enough to process. And I know that about myself, so I just need to meet myself where I am. Because paralysis or avoiding things does no one any good. So I am going to do what I can. And this week, that is starting this mosaic. And I have a fear it's going to take me much longer than I actually want it to. But alas. If you are watching this, please let me tell you this is not a how-to. I repeat, this is not a how-to. This is just what I'm doing based on the videos I watched. Okay, so I have put a piece of wood down with our template down, and then I have taped over a sheet of just plastic food wrap. And now I will layer the mesh on top of that. I'll line it up with where we want it and where we want the letters on the stair. Selfishly, I mean, all of this does put constraints on our life, you know. We travel full time, and gas and diesel have absolutely exploded. So that may change our plans. Also, it doesn't feel like the best time to be traveling. You know, we don't know what's coming next. And I do feel like things are getting worse. And it's not just gas and things that are getting more expensive. It's everything. Everything is getting more expensive. And so, you know, at the beginning of the year, we were sort of toying around with the idea of getting a more capable off, like 4x4 type vehicle, so that way we can go farther. And farther for us meant Central South America. It meant Europe. It meant Africa. And that feels very far away. We were also looking at getting residency in Poland or Europe, and through like Ben's family and stuff. And that does not feel good or right now. And we've looked at land, but land prices are astronomical these days. And there's always like this fear of like, should we buy now? Should we wait? well, it's expensive now. Well, it's going to be more expensive later. And we're not ready to settle down, in all honesty. And I think if we really were wanting to settle down, it would be on a beach, Costa Rica or something like that. But that feels far away from family, and, our parents are aging. And so on top of the whole world being a wild, wild west full of madness, internally, there's been a lot of debate about what does the next season of life look like for us. And, with AI, how does that affect our jobs going forward? We both work online, and Ben works at a virtual assistant company, and there's been a lot of cancellations because people don't have money to pay for an assistant, or people are just like doing severe cuts on budget spending and things for their business. And so will he have a job a year from now? And, just everything just feels so heavy. And that sort of heaviness makes decision making so much harder. And this is for us who we're two people who are educated and who have families that love and care for us, and we don't have kids to worry or think about. I can't imagine what my friends are feeling, or seniors who are on a very limited income from the government. Like, are those checks going to keep coming? It just feels like everything is so fragile right now. And I feel unprepared for all of it. And I get online, and it is just like this weird microcosm of scrolling and people being like, World War III, and you need to prep. And then here's this low back muumuu dress that'll make your husband Randy. Like, how do we hold all these things in our brain? Gotta admit, I'm not doing the best job of it. I have been spiraling. And a lot of that, I think, is because I feel unprepared for what's coming. And because I look around and I see people online who are worried about the state of the world. But like the individuals in my community, it just doesn't feel that way. And it all feels like we are so exhausted and so tapped out and so overwhelmed that we're just like sort of burying our heads in the sand. And I get, wow, do I get that impulse? It's really hard to look at everything that's happening right now. Because I think when you do, it's so normal to feel hopeless, or like we can't do anything about it, or it's all just this thing out of our control. And in a lot of ways, that is true. But I think for me this week, something that has made me feel better is feeling like I'm somewhat prepared. If you want to know what that means, message us or leave us a comment and we can make a video about that. But we spent a few days just thinking about different scenarios and what could happen and how we would like to feel prepared for that. You know, what happens if there is an energy crisis? And there very well may be. I don't know that anyone has much faith that this ceasefire will hold. Which means that even if we do have fuel, how much is it going to cost? Can people afford it? What about things like fertilizers and, you know, are people still going to want to trade with us? And part of me, oh my gosh, a huge part of me feels absolutely insane saying all of this out loud. Like, I feel crazy thinking like this and feeling like I need to have some cash on hand in case our banking infrastructure gets hacked. Then the other half of me is like, but what if it does? And we're just not prepared at all. Yeah. So with all of those things sitting heavy in my head and on my heart, the only thing I know to do is to make some contingency plans and to do projects that pull me closer to myself and allow me the space to breathe and to think and to not get overwhelmed. Because I do think that that is part of the goal here, is to overwhelm us, is to make us feel helpless and like there's nothing that we can do. Yeah. If you're feeling any of these things, can you let me know in the comments? Because I feel like I would feel a little less lonely if I knew I wasn't the only one having this existential crisis. So I'm taking my little tile here, putting a little teensy weensy dab of this weld bond, and then placing it over our template. Now we just have to do this 9 trillion more times. Again, do not know what I'm doing. Please do not see this and take it as a how-to. He chased her hard.
That's not what cats. Do that with their mama too.
And let me be abundantly clear, this is not meant to be a woe is me video. I'm only talking about my circumstance because it's the only circumstance I can talk about. I cannot imagine what it is like to be in Iran right now. I cannot imagine being a mother of a child who is blown to smithereens when I sent her to school. I cannot imagine the heartache that would cause me. And I cannot ever fathom forgiving the country who did it.
I can't imagine sending soldiers when that comes off to die either.
I can't tell you how radicalized I would become if my child was blown up at school. I don't see how what we are doing creates more peace. And I studied this for my master's, Peace and Reconciliation. What we are doing will not produce more peace. Period. I also cannot imagine being the wife to a soldier who is being sent right now by a man who dodged a draft and has never fought in a war. I cannot imagine being the mother to a soldier who's being deployed. I also can't imagine being an army wife who relies on things like WIC or food assistance, because a large majority of entry-level soldiers, they do. I can't imagine having those cut right now. And I can't imagine being someone who still supports all of this. And that's not a dig at anyone. I'm just saying, how? How? My strategy, if I have one, is to do the letters first and then go back with the base color around it. As you can tell, I'm not being super particular about like spacing. Maybe I should be more particular, but just sort of making it work. Trying to get the edges smoothed down a bit. I'm working on the A here. Trying to get that slope. Pretty good. So while this process is time consuming, it's probably honestly going to be the easiest part of this whole shindig. It's not difficult at all to glue these on here. Laying them probably will be, and all of the other bits. So I am just going to sit here and glue my worries away. And next week, I will hopefully have a bit more of this done. And who knows? Maybe I will have drastically over-exaggerated all of this. And the world will be a beautiful, wonderful, better place by then. At least I think that's what we are all hoping for. I know this isn't a normal video like we normally do, but I couldn't just sit here and do a DIY video and ignore everything that is happening. And to be honest, we didn't even scratch the surface. I hope that if you're feeling overwhelmed this week, that you will do something for yourself to ground yourself. I hope that you will invest in your community and the people around you. I hope that you will be kinder to yourself and to everyone you encounter. Yeah. I'll see you back here next week. And if you want to send me a DM on Instagram or anything and cheer me up, I like memes. And I'll be here doing this. Bye, crew.